Hey there, YouTube. Ghost Jake here with you today. How's your day going today? My day, my day or night is actually going pretty good. Um, I just watched The Exorcist season 2, episode 3 live. It literally just got over about a minute ago. And so, without further ado, I am going to start my review on The Exorcist, the TV show. Okay, in 3, 4, 2, 1, 0. Here we go. Now, this episode takes place pretty much. It takes place in like Spain, I believe. Well, when it first opens up, I believe they're in Spain, somewhere in Spain, because you see like the cardinal who was like integrated with the demon. You see him, and you see him do the demonic spell where he summons a demon, and then a demon possesses someone at the table. Anyway, we're still at the table, but we're moving into the kitchen because there's something in the kitchen I noticed in the very beginning that is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And that is what I noticed that was very interesting in the kitchen. There's those like the bread things for spiritual communion, right? You see like this baker, like crushing them up, right? And and the baker ends up putting it on these like tarts or whatever these are, the tarts or some sort of cookie or whatever it is, preparing for the guests, right? And then she takes some of the crushed up spiritual communion and she puts it on like the tarts or the cookies, and then serves it to the integrated demons, people with demons, but they don't know that it's dosed, essentially, and they take a bite of it, and they start reacting like vomiting up like bloody stuff, and then we see her light something on fire, and like the tablecloth on fire, and then grab this guy's cat and walks out the door, and then the reveal of her face. We can all probably expect this from those of us who watched season 2. The girl who dosed those demons is this exact same girl that Father Bennett was instructed to go find. Okay, now we are moving to Seattle, because a lot of this episode takes place in Seattle, more so than jumping around like the previous episode. The majority of this episode takes place in Seattle. We see Father Thomas and Father Marcus. They arrive in front of this house, And the Father Thomas is sleeping, and he has a vision of he has a vision of he has a vision of like the supposedly possessed girl they were instructed to go and meet, right? And then go and meet, and knock on the door, and the mother answers the door, and they go in, and they soon discover that the daughter's name is Harper. We'll get back to her in a moment, because now we are going to Andy's place on the island. Because where they were first, they were in Seattle, Washington. And I think Andy's place is definitely still in Seattle, but it's not. It's in different parts of Seattle. Well, now we go to Andy's place, and he's having a conversation. We start off while he's with Andy. He's having a conversation with Caleb about whether or not if his sister or stepsister Verity actually left him on the well, and Andy is actually starting. At least he says that he believes Verity that Verity didn't take her to the well, but Verity is still kind of pissed off that she's still kind of pissed off that Andy still doesn't really believe her, but I think Andy is starting to come around, right? Andy's starting to come around to where he is starting to believe Verity a little bit more. And so the kids are pretty much going to, Verity and Shelby and everyone else pretty much heading off to go to school, while pretty much going to school. Oh, but I did forget one thing. When it opened up at Andy's place, Andy was burying the dead lamb. I did forget that, but that has now just been corrected now. Anyway, he was burying the dead lamb, and then he went and okay. So after the kids went to school, he went to talk to the farmer who was like repairing this boat motor, was what he was doing at the time when Andy was talking to him, and he was offering Andy some beer, and he's like, yeah, no, a little bit early, and then Andy decides to take the beer. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll take the beer. And Andy was asking him about some of the supernatural events that are going on. He's not flat out asking like, "Oh, do you place?" He's not asking, saying like, "Do you think this place is haunted or anything?" What he is pretty much doing is asking, if this place, if he has ever seen anything that he can't explain, supernatural or otherwise, is pretty much what he was asking. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention, not really forgot to mention, but while the kids were going to school, Shelby left and went towards the lake because of because he went to the lake and to find, to pray and to pray, because Shelby is convinced 100% without a doubt that there is something supernatural going on at Andy's place in those woods. And he's probably right. Actually, since the show's The Exorcist, he is right, but we're not going to get that far yet. Anyway, now we go back to Father Bennett really fast, because Father Bennett, he is in this church, and he's been there for in the town for the last couple of the last like 3 or 4 days, and since he's been there, he has not taken spiritual communion, not once. He hasn't felt like it. And then all of a sudden, this woman like sits down behind him and pulls out a knife on Bennett, which is kind of interesting. But the woman that sat out behind him is the exact same one who dosed the cardinals tarts or cookies or whatever the heck they wore. And it's the exact same one Bennett was the one to find. Then she pretty much forces him to take spiritual communion, and then she takes one too to prove that they're not integrated or possessed or demonically influenced whatsoever. And then they head out to meet her source. We didn't really get an answer in this episode whether or not if she is actually going to help Bennett, because she's kind of been doing stuff on her own. But she's at least letting him meet the source of her information. Anyway, now we go back to Harper's house. All of a sudden, Father Bennett and Father Marcus, they are, not Father Bennett, I mean Father Thomas and Father Marcus, they are interviewing the mother, and then they go up and talk to Harper, and, asking if she's possessed, not asking, and talking to her in Aramaic, I believe is what Marcus said later on, and in Spanish, and to see what the deal is, whether or not she's actually possessed or not, because Thomas, he with the vision he had while he was sleeping in the car before they went into Harper's house, he is pretty much convinced that she is possessed. But earlier in the episode, I forgot to mention, while they were talking to the mother, it was like Marcus was like, we can't just do an exorcism. We can't just do an exorcism because we need proof that she is possessed. Because we need proof that she is possessed. Don't know if you can kind of see what I mean. But there we go. Zoom in. Because they need proof that she is possessed. Anyway. And guess what? They're not really getting the proof all that much. I mean, they're getting some, but not enough proof. And all of a sudden, she starts talking and hallucinating Harper. I mean, and the mother's convincing, and Father Thomas is ready to go do the exorcism, and he's like, no. We need more proof that we haven't got anything yet. We hardly got any proof that she is possessed. Right? While they're interviewing Harper and talking to her mother, there's a knock on her door, and there's a knock on her door, and it's Rose, the Social Security worker who is living at Andy's place at the current moment. Right? Because because early on in the episode, she informed Andy that she has to leave for a little bit because she has she had another appointment to take, right? And there's like, okay, can I come in and talk to Harper? And Mother's like, no. And then all of a sudden she's getting ready to leave, and then Father Marcus comes down and talks to Rose, and then Rose informs him that Harper or her mother has been in hospitals like through her entire life. So Father Marcus goes and raids the bathroom, the kitchen, looking for any sort of medicine whatsoever. Anyway, now we're going back to Andy's. Really fast. Andy got conceited in getting his youngest, Grace, outside because she has that fear where she's like afraid to go outside. I can't exactly remember what it's called. If you know what it's called, you can leave a comment down below. But she has that, and she got him to go outside because of promise, and he made a lot of progress with her. He like even got her to touch like a sunflower, right? Anyway, and then we see all these birds start flying towards Andy's house and they're coming from the direction of the lake, and they're hitting into Andy's house, just smacking, boom, 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 and they're like dying because they're pretty much killing themselves. And I call this when Shelby went into the water and started praying by the lakeside. During the episode when it was airing, I'm like, don't do that, Shelby. You are just going to piss whatever supernatural spirit there is off. And guess what? I was right. All those birds is definitely a sign of the supernatural. He just pissed off whatever is there. Probably made things 10 times worse than what they already are. Way to go, but your belief is strong. Good for you. Anyway. And then Andy, he talks to the farmer. He's like, stuff about being unexplained. I would say all these dead birds covered, and then the farmer, it says they come from the lake, and then Andy says, okay, wait here, I know exactly where they came from, and then he goes to where then Andy, he goes and finds Shelby in the exact spot where his wife committed suicide. And Andy is pretty pissed off that he was right there in that spot. And right now we're going back to Harper's house really fast. Now we go back to Harper's house. Father Marcus, Thomas is getting ready to do the exorcism, right? And Father Marcus finds all the pills that her mother's been forcing her daughter to take to make them believe that she is possessed. I said supposedly possessed, and she is not possessed. Her mother is just crazy, and she's been dosing her own daughter, pretty much. And then Father Marcus uncovers it, and then there's kind of a fight that breaks out between her and her mother, and between the priest and her mother. And then the cops end up showing up, and tell her, oh, you need to stop this right now. They arrest the mother and take Harper to the hospital because Harper is not possessed at all. She is perfectly fine. Right? And they're talking to Grace. Not Grace, they're talking to Rose while they're at the Marcus and Thomas talking to Rose while they're at the hospital. And they're like, it's like, what's going to happen to her now? It was like, like, she's probably going to have to find a place to stay, but then she suggested that, I know a place where she could stay temporarily. Talking about Andy, so it looks like Harper's going to be moving in with Andy. Starting episode 4. Should be very interesting. Now, we are, and Thomas, maybe before, Thomas comes to the realization that, if I would have performed the exorcism, we would have probably just killed that girl. That vision I had was wrong. And then he comes to the realization he can't do this on his own like he thought he could. He needs Marcus's help. Okay. Now to close off the episode. Father Bennett and that girl he went to go meet. They go to her secret location where she gets her information. And Father Bennett's a little confused. He's like, I thought you got your information. And going to meet your source. It's like, oh, we are. And then they talk about, the corruption, of the demons and the citadel. Not the citadel. I'm sorry. Like the Roman, the exorcism place, like the Vatican and whatnot. And they're like, yeah. Okay, and then she finds this nun who's been, like, possessed. And like, oh, this is what they're doing to him. They're pretty much making him, like, empty zombie shells of possessed people, pretty much. And then that is where the episode takes off. And in the episode 4 preview, we have Father Thomas and Father Marcus all going to Andy's house. So it looks like the focus from episode 4 on is going to be on the island at Andy's house. Well, this is Ghost Jake signing off. See you later tonight because I missed the other show to do my review. Okay. See ya. Bye.